In today's video, we're going to be having a look at what's going on at the ASX. From there, we're also going to be having a bit of a chat about Trump, some stocks, and the RCEP. Hello, and welcome to another ACY Securities Hot Topics video. My name is Alistair Schultz, and I'm going to be your host for today's trading journey. The first thing I'm covering up today is the ASX has been halted for about 4.5 hours at this stage. We don't know whether there's been a hack. We're not sure if it's because they've had technical problems. I'm suggesting that they should maybe try turning it off and then turning it back on again. But there could be a number of different elements. So a lot of investors are sort of sitting on the fence to try and see what's happening. But of course, we don't have that much more time left until the end of the trading session anyway. We might have to wait until tomorrow, and it might be time to go and have a drink and put your feet up for the Monday trading action anyway. Now, moving on from the ASX being halted, and whenever that does actually find out, I will keep you all informed. The next bit to look at is just a little bit of the open and a bit of a recap of what's happened today so far and what we've expected. US equity futures have opened higher in the session this morning, and we're on the basis that we've seen from US lockdown being ruled out by Joe Biden. What they have speculated on is that they will probably go with the idea of small targeted lockdowns in specific areas to try and help curb the control of coronavirus in the US. Naturally, equities in the US have responded quite well to that, and we expect to see the index go up a little bit as well later in the day. Now, Asian equities are also expected to rise with positive sentiment in the region just in general, but also because of the RCEP announcement on an agreement finally going through after a decade. So I'll cover that in a little bit more detail just shortly. And the last one is that last week's action that we saw on the news, there has been a lot of a rotation from those tech stock sectors down to the value and the cyclical sort of stocks. And that's evident in where we see prices going, particularly on the NASDAQ and of course the S&P 500. We've seen the Russell 2000 improve whilst the others have come sort of down. Now those value stocks, that sort of trade, the rotation, we've seen it numerous times before. It's obviously back in fashion again for this week. So keep an eye on some of your charts whilst you're going through them to see if you can pick up a good opportunity. Now, looking at the RCEP, some of you might be asking, what is that? It is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and it involves a number of different states involved in it and a number of different countries. But of course, what's the difference between this one and what we know as the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or the TPP? Well, the difference is just the countries that are involved, but this is what probably the largest trade deal that's ever been manufactured so far. The RCEP accounts for 27% of global trade. The GDP growth is speculated to be going to increase for not just the region, but also independent countries. And we're likely to see that China and Japan have quite good results on their GDP growth out of that. Of course, one of the bigger factors that I've been looking at when it comes to this RCEP factor is the agricultural benefits that we might see here in Australia. Obviously, with this new RCEP trade agreement that we've seen, we're going to be seeing tariffs come down in value, and it also means that we get better organization for those tariffs and, of course, exporting goods at reduced cost, making us a little bit more competitive, particularly in agricultural areas and produce. Of course, all sectors are going to see some level of benefit, but the one that I see leading the charge is going to be on the agricultural side. The hot questions that we really have at the moment are whether we are going to see India join the party and the table. At the moment, it does include China, Australia, New Zealand, and about 10 or 11 other different nations that are involved in it across the ASEAN region. And Australia and New Zealand being a little bit different, we actually do have a partnership in the TPP as well. So we're getting the benefits of both sides here. Now, that question stands whether India will join. They do have a slated ability to get in over the next couple of months. I anticipate that we're probably going to be seeing that happen once we do have the inauguration of Joe Biden, so they have a little bit more decision, and of course, maybe easing some of the tensions that they've got across the globe with other countries. The other one that we're going to be wondering to see happened after this, and this is more to do with the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That one there will be interesting to see if the US rejoins. Under Trump's presidency, they decided to withdraw from it, and of course, it covers much of the Americas in general, and a couple of other little island nations as well. But we will be keeping an eye on whether Joe Biden decides to re-enter into that agreement to bring down and probably get rid of some of the tariffs that Trump has put in place. Now, since we've been on the topic of talking about Trump, I do have some thoughts on what we might see next before the end of the year, or at least before the inauguration. There's been a lot of talk, and I've been asked a couple of questions about what I think on the idea of him potentially either ending up in jail or at least being sued to a certain degree by some of the states. Now, what I've thought about and I've gone through over the process is there is a possibility that he may decide to actually walk away from being president, making Mike Pence the new president, who he may set up some level of an agreement, at least maybe a handshake or an under the counter, to have Mike Pence basically allow him to get away with it, or at least not get done for it. So this way, he's going to walk out and get pardoned for what's actually happened and what is waiting for him once his presidency is over. So if we do see that happening, it would be interesting. It may not, because obviously at a state level and what happens at a federal level are a little bit different, and he can still be sued, but it would be interesting to see if that does fall into play. So something to keep your thoughts on over the next couple of weeks until we get some real results. The other side of what's happening with Trump as well is he does look to be making it a little bit more difficult for a Joe Biden presidency. He is ramping up tariffs in some countries already, and we're expected to see a few more at least before the changeover at the inauguration. Now, moving on, a little bit of a bonus round for you all. Earnings results, which seem to be going on forever, are again continuing this week. I have my eyes on the prize for two different things this week. I'm really going to be focusing on the retail side. I know that sounds challenging, but we do have Black Friday and Cyber Monday coming up at the end of this month. So for the US market, that's an important day. So a lot of businesses, particularly independents, don't run in the black until Black Friday. That's why it's called Black Friday. So they will be running in the red all year round at a loss until they get to that day. Now, one of the things I'm looking here for is the consumer sentiment side, particularly from the University of Michigan, going to match up with those retail sales? My guess is it's probably not, and we are going to see an influx of at least e-commerce purchases, but of course, we don't know. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on the earnings side for this week on Walmart, and I'm also going to be having a bit of a deep dive into Target as well. Both of those might give us a bit of an insight on how they've been traveling so far in this quarter and what the expectations for them might be when it comes round to Black Friday. Now, the other one to look at this week is Nvidia. Wednesday, they are releasing their results. I'm expecting growth in a lot of their products, particularly in gaming, AI, and of course cloud-based services. So expect to see some level of expansion in those areas, and they are looking forward to the next couple of years. For me, I do find that they have good foundation, so I am going to be watching quite closely. Now, the risk that I do see to this particular problem is that the tech and value cyclical stocks can cause a bit of an issue. We might find that rotation drags their price down a little bit. We might also find that the stock price is a little bit lofty already. And don't forget, if it does get dragged down, then we might end up getting this rotation cycle continue. So it won't just stay in the one place, and we end up going from cyclicals and values back to tech, which is not the first time it's happened this year. It's just a matter of how long it will. But I personally feel that I will be sticking with this one for a little while to come yet. Now, moving on to the news ahead of today, there's a few things that have come out. We've already heard from RBA Governor Lowe. We've also seen some of the Chinese industrial production and Chinese retail sales figures, which have so far been reportedly good. We've also got a stability review from the ECB, so expect to hear from Christine Lagarde shortly after that is announced. And much later in the session, on the US side, we'll be hearing from FOMC member Clarida. So let's keep an eye on the trading for the rest of the day, and good luck, and hopefully you haven't been halted in the ASX. Now, if you have any questions from today's video, don't forget to send me a message either at talktoal@acy.com or any of my other socials. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this video so you can get more great content from me and ACY Securities in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.